Hey guys, welcome back to Just a Geek in the Garage. Today I want to talk about a new Knipex that I just received. It's the Cobra ES, which is I think the extra slim is what it stands for, and it's the model number, if we can see that, 8751250, made in Germany. Actually, funny enough, I just had a comment earlier this morning or yesterday on one of my other videos to do more videos on German tools. So here we go. It happened to work out perfectly. So I received these fairly recently, and man, I think these are a game changer, especially for me. I don't know about you guys, but my most used pliers, and I've said it in other videos, is going to be a needle nose, and kind of one of my most go-to is going to be a snap-on needle nose. I have the meme set that they sell. There's the 9-inch, 7-inch, and 5-inch, but I tend to grab the 5-inch the most. And with this one, it's a dual position, right? You can have it like this, you can have it like this, right? And then the other ones, the bigger ones, are going to be similar, just they're going to give you a third position as well, so that you can work on a little bit larger fasteners and things like that. But I use this one just because the nose of it is very, very small. It gets into places that I needed to get into. Obviously you're not going to have a ton of leverage just because the handle is so small, but I use it primarily for the head size. So when I got this thing in the mail, I'm looking at this thing, and comparing it to the regular Cobra first and foremost, at a glance it's like, oh, it's not that big of a difference. But when you line these things up, I mean, you see, look at the difference in just that nose part of it. This is going to get into places where this one has no chance of getting into. And the profile, especially with the way this kind of looks, for me, it's not that dissimilar from this guy right here. I mean, that's pretty crazy when you put them side by side like that. And I mean, look at the difference in the size of the pliers. So that means I can get this into places where, the regular Cobras or Alligators or even twin grips are not going to be able to go. But I'm going to have a ton of leverage that I wouldn't have with a smaller set of pliers. And as a bonus, it's just like the regular Cobras where you can open up very wide. So if you're working on a big fastener, you still have that same ability. So this kind of replaces a few different pliers in one set. I think I mentioned in another Knipex video that I did that I've heard rumors that they're going to put a twin grip style head on something like this, so you have that little extra hole to get rusted off or stubborn fasteners. But man, this thing right here, I think is going to solve a lot of issues for me. So while I'm kind of talking about this guy, I thought I'd just kind of go over the whole all the Knipex that I currently own. The ones that I like, the ones maybe that I would skip in the future, and the ones where if I could only buy one or two, again, which ones would I actually buy? So this one, 100% is a buy all day long. One thing that I was a little bit bummed about, this is the 250, which stands for 250 millimeters, which is roughly 10 inches. There's also a 180 version of this, which is about 7.25 inches, so that would be about this size. And for me, I actually find pliers that are this size a little bit more useful for what I end up doing. And they do have a version of this in the 180s. But for some reason, everywhere I looked, the 180 was actually more expensive than the 250. So I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to buy these ones eventually. So I ended up going with the 250 just to try them out. But, after this video, I'm probably going to go and pull the trigger and end up with the 180s. And then maybe I'll do a comparison video of the two. But again, so, if I could only buy one set of Knipex pliers, this likely would be the one that I would go for. But let's go through all the other ones and kind of see the pros and cons on what you're going to have. So when somebody says the word Knipex, I think the majority of us out there are going to think of this specific guy right here, the 8701 250s. These are kind of the classic Cobras. They have that push button where you're going to have a bunch of different positions that you can get into, opens up super, super wide. My only real gripe on Knipex is their grips, to be honest with you. I feel like their regular dip grips like this are a little bit too thin where you can kind of feel the metal when you're pressing, but their cushion grips are almost too cushiony. I would love an option in the middle, almost like what Snap-on has, or even Icon puts on their versions of it. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really have any complaints about any of my Knipex pliers. So, these ones are, a great starting point. I think these were the first ones that I purchased. Then I went for the twin grips because, people just love these, and they actually work really, really well for what they're designed for. They're very good at extracting fasteners, especially if you can't get, because if you can't get a normal set of pliers, on a fastener this way, this thing, I mean, really bites into it. I think I have kind of an example. I mean, you look at this piece of wood right here, and you see how I have, some screws in there. I could very easily right there. I mean, that screw is pretty much flush in there, and this thing grabs it and bites into it with no problems. Even this, let's see, does it grab this black screw? Let me see if I can get to it. Yeah, even this black screw, that's, I mean, super, super flush. I know it's kind of hard to see here. I could actually grab onto that and spin it. And you're not going to be able to do that with a set of pliers, like this by grabbing it on the side. Next up, just kind of variations of the Cobra. So there's the Easy Grip, as they call it. I believe it's called, or I'm sorry, Smart Grip, right? Which is, with the Cobras, you have to press the button to open it basically and close it. Where with this one, it just has this little switch. And when you flip the switch, they just open up automatically. And then they're just going to, grip on anything that you have. Here, let me grab just kind of a regular bolt here that I have. So, you grab it and then boom, it just grips right there. Where with the Cobras, you have to basically adjust it. So this is similar to, I don't know if you guys are as old as I am, but there used to be a thing called the RoboGrip pliers, which I think were rebranded by Craftsman and Mac to kind of do a similar thing. Right, where you just kind of just finds it and it just grips onto it. But, the problem with these guys, I think the teeth were just a little bit too aggressive. It's more of kind of a parallel jaw. I know there's different variations of this, but these kind of fell out of favor for the Cobra style. But this one's kind of the best of both worlds. It is a good set of pliers, but if I could only have a couple of Knipex in my collection, this is one that I would probably skip. Now, if you like the Cobras, but don't want to spend the money, because these generally now, I mean, they've gone up in price a little bit. They used to be kind of in the mid-30s. Now they're usually closer to 40. You can usually get what's called the Alligators. Alligators are going to be somewhat similar. Jaw style and things like that are going to be very, very close when you're looking at the two. The main difference, which can be a pro and a con depending on how you're working, is it does not have a button that you have to press like you do on here. Is basically, let me see if I can do this on camera. When you open it wide like this, you see this piece turn, and when it turns, you can move it up and down, right? So you can do that without having to have, your finger on the button. The one drawback, however, is this only has, I think it's like 9 positions that it can be in, versus something like this, I believe, is like closer to 20 positions. So, this is a good, I guess, budget option on the Knipex, where if you were thinking about buying like a cheaper pair instead of the Cobras, like something like an Irwin that's a copy of it, or even like the Doyle, you're probably spending about $20 on those. Where for $10 more, you can have an actual Knipex brand, which I think is a much better value. And I did do a video of like Icon versus Knipex, and basically in that video, I determined I do like the Icon grips a hair more. But overall value for money, you're paying about, a little bit more for something like this. The Icon version might be 20, 25, where this version might be, 30, 35, 40. We're talking about 50% more, sometimes double. But, you're getting the original, and it's not like Snap-on where you're going to be paying, a ton, 5, 10 times more than you would for something cheaper. Usually, actually, no, I'm sorry, about 4 or 5 times more for something cheaper. So I already went over the twin grips. Great pliers. Next up is just the kind of the baby version of the Cobras, and this is the 7 1/4 inch version. Again, I cannot wait to get my hands on the extra slim version of this guy. I think that one is going to be one of my most used pliers, and be in competition with this guy right here. Next up is we have what's called the Pliers wrench. This is, a great little one if you're working on some nuts and bolts you don't know the size of, or if you're working on a fastener that you don't want to mar because it has just a perfectly smooth jaw on here. So this is a nice one. I only have the small version. There is a larger version, but I don't think I use these things enough to justify buying the actual Knipex one. I do have the Icon version of it, which, you know, I've used it a few times, but, you know, it tends to be a pricier wrench. And, you know, I have, you know, a large amount of regular wrenches, so usually I'm going to try to find the right size versus using something that's adjustable. And last up, I just picked this thing up because it was on sale, and I didn't have a set of these kind of end nippers. If you're trying to cut something, you can. This one, honestly, I haven't used enough to be able to really give you a yes or no on whether you should purchase it or not. Although what I will say is that this grip on here, I do like a bit more than the grip that's on the rest of them. So kind of like what I said at the beginning, you know, if I could only have, you know, 1 or 2 pairs of these, you know, which ones would I get, right? So again, I've made it obvious this is probably going to be the first pair I would buy now, you know, now that I have the experience with all of these. And then from there, you know, it kind of depends. I'd probably skip these guys, and maybe, which might be controversial, I'd probably skip these guys, right? And actually, you know what? No, let me take that back. You know, I'm gonna put these kind of 3, you know, as contenders for the other one. So if you're looking for something that's, you know, similar, right, and you don't think that the twin grip is going to be a good option, then, you know, you go for one of these. If you're looking for a set, just, you know, with that twin grip, with that nice, you know, fastener where you can grab the fasteners, I think this right here would be a great way to go. Just these 2 pliers are going to do a lot. Now, one caveat, if you're like, you know what, I want something that's a little bit cheaper, I don't want to spend as much as all of this, is, you know, maybe you go with something like this. The Alligators are a little bit cheaper because it doesn't have that same mechanism. But I think at the end of the day, if you're going to ask me personally, it's probably going to be these 2 guys are the ones that I would buy over and over and over again. And then I'd probably add, like I said, the extra slim version of this. So tell me, guys, you know, what do you think? Have you seen these new extra slim pliers? And do you think these are going to be useful for you, or do you think that the traditional Cobras are going to be the way to go? So, you know, let's have a discussion down in the comments. Tell me, you know, what do you guys think? And like I said, I will try to do another video where I'm probably just going to compare, you know, these 2 when I get the 180s of this. So with that, thank you guys very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.